Welcome everyone to the B Critics episode 1, where we talk about 3 new movies every week. I'm not going to guarantee that they're the newest, but they're new.
Yeah.
Whether they came out in theaters or straight to DVD, whatever, we're talking about them.
It should be within a month.
Yeah. That's our plan.
Within the month.
Within the month, yeah. So, in case you did not listen to our intro, I am Paul.
I'm Tara.
Good job. And we're going to talk about some movies with absolutely no authority. We're starting it off strong with a high-quality Netflix release starring a high-quality actor, David Spade. It's Father of the Year. And this movie's a piece of shit.
Jeez.
What? It's really not good at all.
It really wasn't. It's a Netflix movie. Happy Madison. Isn't that what it's called?
What?
Oh no, Happy Gilmore. The production company.
No, Happy Gilmore's the Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, okay. So it's Happy Madison.
It's something like that.
It's Adam Sandler's.
Adam Sandler's what?
His company.
Oh, that explains why it was so subpar.
You didn't recognize the beginning with the old man with the golf club? Have you not seen every Adam Sandler movie ever?
I haven't seen an Adam Sandler movie since Click.
What?
And I thank myself for that. I pat myself on the back every day knowing that I have not subjected myself to anything post-Click Adam Sandler.
I don't like to think about Click. It's sad.
Yeah, and it was like his last good movie.
No, it wasn't.
You know what's not a good movie? This one.
This one. We're not talking about Adam Sandler anymore.
So, I would tell you what the premise of this movie is, but it really doesn't even matter one bit because the movie explores that premise for a grand total of maybe like 20 minutes in the full hour and a half runtime.
Yeah.
It is chocked with so much filler that it took half an hour until I understood where the plot was even trying to go.
And most of the scenes really are unnecessary. They don't relate to each other. They could be completely removed and you wouldn't miss anything.
Right, you could take every scene in the movie except for like the 3 main plot points, put it all in shuffle, and it would make just as much sense.
Yeah, really.
I guess, okay, it's about this kid who gets this big schwanky job at New York, and he drops back home to say hi to his dad and everything.
David Spade.
Yeah, David Spade, who turns out is trailer trash, is a complete underachiever in everything, and is apparently supposed to be funny, but I really didn't laugh at all.
It's hard. It's really hard to make trailer trash funny.
Right. Like, I felt like at the start of the movie they were trying to go for an almost Trailer Park Boys-esque kind of thing, but the problem was something like Trailer Park Boys is so based around just the character interactions and the dialogue. This was all gross-out slapstick humor, and it didn't let up. That was all it was throughout the whole movie. And I don't mind a good old dick joke here and there. I'm not offended by anything.
You love that movie.
But this movie felt like it was trying so hard to be shocking that it was like a middle school kid who just discovered the word fuck.
Yeah, it was basically insert joke here. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, everything from like here's the spineless dad, and here's somebody doing drugs who doesn't normally do drugs. Whoa, which, defying all odds, may have actually been the funniest part of the movie, and I don't know how they manage that. Because usually the drug scene in every movie is the most roll your eyes, okay, saw this coming, but...
Yeah. Here's the geeky friend. Here's the quirky, cool girl that he likes but doesn't like him.
Exactly. It's, everything is just... It's every trope that you don't want in a comedy movie that keeps plaguing every comedy movie that you see. and it was not good.
It's all just thrown together. Some movies that use the same jokes are funny because they just work well. They're just funny for some reason.
Right. You have to execute that trope better than the competition if you're going to do it well. If you're just doing it for the sake of doing it and there's absolutely nothing clever about it, then you back yourself into a corner and then it's just back to not being funny. I don't think I even exhaled air from my nose until about the 30-minute point of this movie. Was when something was finally slightly entertaining enough for me to go, ha, and that was it.
Yeah, I think we each had maybe 2 or 3 of those.
Right.
Like, oh, that 2 seconds was funny.
Right. But you compare it to other movies that you would think are like dumb comedies like Tag or Blockers or something, and even those 2 movies had me rolling in parts.
Well, yeah, and they're fun to watch. If you're going to have a stupid comedy, it has to at least be fun to watch, but this one was just like almost awkward to watch and it was boring.
Yeah, there was nothing clever about it. There was nothing unique about it. Like, when you hear the name Father of the Year, the first thing that came to my mind was that really bizarre Robin Williams film, World's Greatest Dad, which was a very unique movie, and it did a lot of stuff that you have never seen a movie do before, but then I saw that it was David Spade, and I realized there was no chance that that's what we were going to get with this one.
Oh, yeah, and he had, like, a really weird accent in the beginning.
Yeah.
What was it? Like, it was supposed to be like a Brooklyn accent or something?
Something like that,
but in the beginning, like, the first time when he talks, it almost sounded part Australian for a little bit, and I was like, wait, is he supposed to be Australian? What?
Yeah, turns out David Spade has his one voice, and that's the voice he should use. Because when he tries to do anything else with it, it's off the rails.
Accents.
Exactly, no accents.
But I mean, it's not like he was going to try that hard for a B-tier comedy on Netflix.
Well, and it kind of blows my mind that he couldn't get, like, a trailer trash voice, right? Because what's one of his most popular roles? Joe Dirt.
Oh, I love that movie.
So how can he not pull that off again? How does he drop the ball on something that already...
I don't know if it's his fault. I think it's more of the script and the scenes.
He didn't have a lot to go off of, that's for sure. And I don't just want to, like, rip on David Spade the whole time, because, I mean, he does what he does. He doesn't try to pretend that he's anything else, and that's fine. But really, none of the other actors were anything noteworthy either. Heck, out of the 4 friend characters, 2 of them didn't matter at all. You could have literally taken out half the cast of this movie, and nothing would have changed whatsoever. You would have gotten, like, 1 or 2 really unfunny jokes out of the way, and then that would have been it.
And even, like you said before, all of the plot points, basically, to get the whole story of the movie, you can see about 25 minutes of it, and the rest is useless.
It's filler. It's blatant filler.
Boring filler.
I am actually amazed that the current IMDb rating here is above a 5 out of 10, because this is actually one of the worst comedies that I've seen.
It's 5.2.
So, barely.
By the way.
But, still, I'm actually in awe of that. That means that there are people who actually found this to be an acceptable comedy, which I don't think that it was a very acceptable comedy at all. Just because it wasn't
wasn't funny.
Oh.
Even bad movies like Norbit I love Norbit. Are funny. Don't make that blank stare. No one can see you but me.
It gets the point across.
No. I like Norbit.
Yeah, I know. You like Norbit.
Because it's stupid enough so it's funny. And this one wasn't. It wasn't stupid. It wasn't anything. It was just there. You
probably like Jack and Jill too.
No, I didn't see that.
Well, that's good.
I like some of Adam Sandler's movies, but no, I didn't see Jack and Jill purposefully.
Purposefully? You didn't go out of your way to watch it?
No, I pretty much saw it all just from the trailer.
Yeah, basically.
But, like, Chuck and Larry is hilarious. I love that movie. Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen Chuck and Larry.
Of course you haven't.
I've told you, I am not, I don't go out of my way to watch, like all these Adam Sandler movies.
But that one's so funny!
And again, we're talking about Adam Sandler in a David Spade film.
Well, it's his production company, so...
I know. It's relevant. That's what these podcasts are for, right? Is just tirades off into nowhere land.
Right. That's why we're bad at it.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else to really say about this movie. I'll just kind of retouch on all the shock humor just wound up being awkward. Like, oh, it's a guy who has to rub some other guy's nipples. Isn't that funny? And you're just kind of sitting there like, what the hell am I watching right now?
It was almost like being in front of somebody who's like saying really bad jokes or just not being funny, but they're trying to be, and you're like, am I supposed to laugh?
Right.
Are they gonna feel bad? Like, you just feel awkward watching it.
Exactly. It's like you need to stop right now before you embarrass yourself further.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of feels like. So, yeah, it's hard to even find like a solid 10 minutes of things to talk about this movie just because it's so unremarkable. Like, it would be one thing if it was, again, so bad that it's funny, but it's not. It's just plain not funny. If you're going to be enjoyable, you have to either be an actual good film or a film that is so terrible that you wrap right back around into being good again, and this movie does not hit that point.
Norbit.
So, that's pretty much all I've got to say about Father of the Year. It's on Netflix, so if you are in dire need of something to do and you've already cried for 3 hours in the day, so you need something less enjoyable.
No, don't watch it. There's no reason.
Yeah.
There are plenty better things to watch on Netflix.
I can't recommend it. It's just not very good.
We watched it because we're watching pretty much every Netflix movie that comes out. We're kind of forced to, so
yeah.
This was it this week.
I mean, hey, I'm a man of no regrets. I take all of these life lessons as they come. And with that, we can move on to something that actually was good. Which brings us to the first movie that we saw in the theater this week. The absolutely fantastic documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor?
About Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
That's right. And about
so sweet.
The show and the man himself, everything that the man accomplished, everything that he did for the world. It's insane. Fred Rogers really drives home two things. He was a wonderful man, and he was a weird man.
Weird.
Yeah, there was a lot of really just kind of off weird stuff about him. Not in like a negative way, not in like hide your kids, it's sold Fred Rogers down the road, but in a very kind of eccentric, strange way.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't mean weird in like a super negative way, just like he was a kind of bizarre man.
Oh, I don't think weird is negative.
Oh. Well, look at that.
He's the man, the person that everybody should be. Loves everybody, supports everybody, accepts them for what they are. He's perfect.
He's the man that I cannot be.
That none of us can really be.
He is the man that the world did not deserve, but we got anyway. The movie really just goes through a laundry list of everything that he accomplished, everything that he went through on his show, everything that he passed down to kids in terms of knowledge and wisdom and all this. And there were multiple parts in that movie where if some individual scenes would have gone on a minute longer, I would have been in absolute tears.
Even like 20 seconds longer. Like 4 different scenes. I was like, ah.
Pretty much every single Daniel Tiger bit.
Oh.
It's just the saddest thing. Or the sweetest thing. It was... And they kind of touched on that in the movie about how all these different puppets kind of reflected different types of Fred Rogers' personality and how Daniel Tiger was the most kind of raw, insecure background thought of self-doubt and all of that. And it's like, dang, we all have that. And if you don't, I don't know who you are or what planet you're from, but...
Especially kids, too. Like, normal people wouldn't think... Like, one of the things that... What'd you say, Daniel?
Yeah.
One of the things that Daniel, the tiger, says, like, he asks if he was a mistake. As in, like, not if him being born was a mistake, him as a human being is a mistake. And who would think that a kid would think that but Mr. Rogers, and then address it in his show?
Yeah. He addressed everything. He addressed racism, assassination, death, divorce, everything that you don't want to talk to your kids about, he did for you. So that you didn't have to, because he had a gift.
And, like, if something happened, like what was the assassination?
John F. Kennedy.
Oh, so the assassination, I think there was going to be, like, news coverage of it on a Saturday. And he was like, we have to record this episode and get it out Friday night before the kids watch the special or whatever on Saturday, so that I can help them understand what the adults are going to be saying, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so special.
Yeah. The bulk of the documentary was, of course, a lot of archival footage, mostly of the show and of previous Fred Rogers interviews.
Right, because he died in 2003.
Right, which I'm assuming most of you know. As well as a lot of newer interviews with various people, such as crew members, friends of his, some of his family, all of that. And then it was interspersed with these brief animated sections, kind of bridging the narratives of what portions of his life they were talking about. And those were well done. Other than that, though, a lot of archival stuff. Really just kind of a rundown of his entire career, and boy, was it ever a career.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell, like, how good the movie is by itself and how good Mr. Rogers is, because it's like, he's just so fun to watch and see everything that he did that like, who wouldn't enjoy the movie just because he's in it?
Right.
So I kind of have a hard time, like, distinguishing just him from the actual, like, quality of the movie.
Right, like...
Or the documentary.
Like, this movie currently has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, to which I ask, whoever is responsible for that 1% that's missing, where is your soul?
Those are critic ratings?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So, some big fancy, I know so much about movies guy was like, actually, the documentary sucked, so it was bad. No, I don't know. I haven't read any of the critic reviews. I have no idea why that isn't a 100%. But, gosh, you can't find anything wrong with the whole movie because it's just so uplifting. It's so refreshing.
But it's so sad, too.
yeah. It's so... I wouldn't even say it's, like, straight up sad. It's It's very much a feeling of bittersweet through the entire thing.
Yeah. Up, super happy, down, like, oh, soul crushing.
Yeah. I mean, heck, this is the man who single-handedly saved PBS, and we're still feeling the effects of that to this day. PBS is still up and running and kicking with all your public access children's shows and some adult shows too, and he also helped save the VHS, and boy, that obviously made an impact as well.
The VHS?
The VHS.
What do you mean the?
As in the format, VHS.
Oh, okay.
The VHS.
Okay. But still, there was never anybody like him before. There's never been anybody like him. There never will be, because there's no room for the way he presented his show in today's world.
Right, they even say that. One of the guys on the show was like, it'll never happen again because there's no room for nice guys on TV.
There's no room for nice guys, but there's no room for how slow the show was. Like, he would he would spend a full minute not even talking and just doing stuff in his living room, and kids would be like freaking out. They would turn him off right away because they need more to stimulate them now.
Right. Which, actually, there is a newer PBS series. I'm sure anybody who's listening to this that has kids knows about it. It is actually called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood.
What?
Yeah. It's like an animated show based off of the ideals of Mr. Rogers and the personality of Daniel Tiger. And it is a little more fast-paced because, again, they probably understand that kids are harder and harder to keep focused. Mm-hmm. I know... Who was that girl? The girl on the show, like Miss Ablett or something like that. I don't remember her name. She actually is not a fan of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood because she thinks it's too fast paced and doesn't have the same respect for kids that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood did. But things kind of have to evolve at some point. I remember being a kid and never wanting to watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood because it was too slow. It was too slow for me. I thought it was boring, and to this day I feel remorse for that.
After seeing this.
I'm like, well, I have sinned.
I used to watch it, but I really don't remember anything about it other than when he comes in and then he starts the train. That's the only thing I remember.
Yeah, I can't even do justice the things that are touched on in this documentary. It is just so exceptional, and I normally don't go to a theater with the thought of, I'm going to watch a documentary. Because normally documentaries are like, oh, okay, great, this is probably going to be dry, it's going to be whatever, but this was not dry. This was full of the character that Mr. Rogers himself had, full of the character of everybody else who worked on the show and who knew him, whether it was his, don't know who he was. He was some kind of like production assistant on the show or something, and he was an absolute character. They had Yo-Yo Ma in some interview footage, and of course he's he's always an interesting guy to hear from. Just from the very, very beginning, how they start with some of the earliest footage of his TV career that they could find. Black and white, the trolley sounding older than ever, even though it was new at that point, but, audio fidelity and all that. But, yeah, it's... Whew. Go watch it. That's all I can say, is even if you have no interest in Fred Rogers, no interest in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, watch it anyway. You owe it to yourself. You could learn something about life that you didn't know, like how Mr. Rogers, this ordained Presbyterian minister, gave every single person a chance. We live in a world where currently the more conservative among us are generally looked down upon as being some of the more closed-minded individuals who don't give people a chance, and there's kind of that stigma attached to that of people thinking, oh, well, this person's right-wing, he's a Republican, that means that if I'm a gay black dude, then he's gonna hate me because that's just how he is. And Fred Rogers is a reminder that that is an absolute generalization. You can't go based off of just what a person may think. You gotta go by what they do think. Because Officer Clemens in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was just that. He was a gay black man who Mr. Rogers loved. He told him to not go public with it, but that was more to save his job than anything, because he knew that the sponsors would kick him right off the show if he did.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure he wanted to save the show, and he didn't want the kids to not have the show. Right. It was too big of a risk at the time, because that was when did he find out, in the 80s? 70s, yeah.
Yeah, with, I believe that's when all the big, HIV scares were going on and everything.
Oh,
or maybe that was 80s.
So it's not that he was like, no, you can't be gay, blah, blah. He just didn't want the show to end because of that.
Right. He understood the politics of it and had to abide by that for a greater cause. But even in the movie, the actor who portrayed Officer Clemens was tearing up because he was like, no man ever loved me like Mr. Rogers did. And that was one of the other parts where you're like, stop it right now, or I'm going to choke up myself.
And he gave the show, like, all that he had. He wrote it, he produced it, he did all the voices for the puppets.
Wrote all the music.
He did all of it for 895 episodes. And so the show ended in 2001 and he died in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically, that show was his whole life.
Yeah, he was doing that pretty much up until the end. Yeah, and of course it touches on his late life and what happened then. The answer is not a whole lot, he got old. A lot of people don't do a whole lot when they're old, but he wasn't even necessarily that old. I mean, he died at age 74. That's not remarkably old, but gone too soon, but still left a considerable footprint on the world of television, on the world of education, on the world in general. Like, boy, I came in to talk about a movie here on this podcast, and here I am giving a huge in memoriam of Fred Rogers about 13 years too late. 15 years too late.
Yeah, 15.
Math.
2003.
Math. Yeah, just a wonderful movie. Everybody there who was in that theater stayed sitting through all of the credits, and nobody moved a muscle until the final credits were done, us included, just because you didn't want to leave. You wanted to stay in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Mm-hmm. You wanted to stay in that world where everything was good and nothing was bad and everything was safe.
And I won't say what happens, but in the credits they have a little, let me try to get you to cry one more time.
Yes, they do. It is worth staying through. No, it's not like at the end of the credits, but even so.
It's just during.
Yeah, but they're not long credits either, being that most everything was just archive footage. There's not a whole lot to credit.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But all of us know Mr. Rogers. I think probably everybody watched him. His show went on from 1968 to 2001. That's a lot of kids who would have seen that.
That's like 3 generations of kids, potentially.
Plus they did reruns, I think, after. I mean, obviously they did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for how long, but...
It is also worth noting that Twitch TV, the gaming streaming platform, aired all of his episodes back to back to back in one giant mega marathon. So I look forward to the next time that they do that.
When did they do that?
I'm not sure when exactly it was.
I can't see anymore, Daniel. The ball. And it was like the same little puppet, too, because in the older episodes, he looked so ratty and, like, old, and he barely had any color left, but he still used that same puppet the whole time. And I was like, oh, Daniel.
Yes, very adorable stuff. Not so adorable as King Friday the 13th. Of course, represents Mr. Rogers' down to business, no nonsense, angry side.
Yeah.
As angry as Mr. Rogers can get.
Of him.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I've said it 4 times already now, but watch it. Just watch it. If you can't catch it in theaters, grab it when it releases on DVD or something, and just enjoy.
Just be happy.
Yes, enjoy an hour and a half of good, wholesome film. Because again, even though I don't mind myself a good dick joke or a good gore explosion action movie, every now and then, something like Mr. Rogers just hits the spot every so often.
You can't be bored or mad or anything during the movie. You're just happy. You're like, oh, this is so precious.
Which leads me into a perfect segue. Who else is as pure as Fred Rogers?
Nobody.
I was going to say...
Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I was going to say Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd.
I love Paul Rudd.
The star of Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel to Ant-Man, one of the less important Marvel movies, actually.
Ant-Man?
Ant-Man, yes. I don't have anything against Ant-Man. By all means, Ant-Man himself was one of the OG Avengers.
Not in the movies, though.
Not
apparently.
No, not in the movies. But in the comic books, he was one of the original Avengers. I believe the character Ant-Man predated the X-Men. He predated the Punisher, predated, I think, Daredevil as well. He predated a lot of characters, actually. Ant-Man is a very old Marvel character who has deserved the film treatment here. However, we still have no Submariner film, so can't win them all. But here we are, the sequel to the first Ant-Man movie, bringing back Michael Douglas, bringing back Lily Evangeline.
Evangeline?
Oh, yeah, that's her name.
Is it?
I think so. And bringing
Most importantly, bringing back Paul Rudd.
Right.
The best.
And bringing in for the first time, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Her name's Evangeline Lilly.
Dang it, I was backwards. Shit.
Oh yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Who, may I say, at age 60, is still looking damn good. Agree with me.
Well, she's a pretty woman, yeah. She's always gonna look good.
Mm-hmm. So Ant-Man
and the Wasp. I loved it.
Loved?
Yeah.
Wow. Is it just the Paul Rudd?
That was like half. I love everything that Paul Rudd does. I love him. I liked... Okay, this is going to be spoilers. We're going to talk about spoilers in this. I've decided. I loved it. It was like the happiest one of these Marvel movies ever. Nothing bad was going to happen.
Oh, whoa. You're talking about those spoilers?
Yeah.
That might be the one thing that we may not want to say.
Why not?
Because that's the most amazing spoiler in the whole movie. That's the most interesting thing that happens in the whole movie.
You said this is a podcast for spoilers.
You're right, I did. Okay, so again, one more strict warning here. This is gonna be a gut punch.
Spoilers. If you didn't see it, turn it off. Or come back when you've watched it.
Alright.
If you care.
Please continue.
Okay, anyway. So, the whole movie is like just happy to me. Nothing bad's gonna happen. The worst thing that's gonna happen is they're not gonna get her mom back. Right? Because if you're listening to this, you know that.
Spoilers, they do, because it's Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, so in the beginning, obviously you're gonna see her again because it's Michelle Pfeiffer. Anyway, so the whole movie's fun, it's nice. Worst thing that's gonna happen is they don't get their mom. Nothing's gonna come and end the world, nothing bad like that. And I was like, the whole movie, I forgot all about Avengers. I thought about it in the very beginning when it started, and I was like, like 15 minutes in, I completely forgot about it because the movie was so happy. It was like, oh, it was so cute. So the whole movie's good. Everything good happens. And then the ending, it ruined it!
Yeah, this was the post-credits scene. So these are also Infinity War spoilers. And if you haven't seen Infinity War yet, well, I don't know what country you're from or what planet you're living on, but
right. Why did you even see the movie if you haven't seen Infinity War?
Right. Yeah. But post-credit scene, Ant-Man is going subatomic to do something. Capture some healing energy that they found out Michelle Pfeiffer has now or something like that.
No, they need it for Ghost.
All right, they need it for Ghost, I guess.
She needs some kind of dosage of it every whatever. So.
That's the main villain, by the way. Since we're apparently just going to talk about this movie in reverse.
Well, they've already seen it if they're still listening, or they should be.
Okay.
We're just assuming you know what we're talking about. So Ghost, she needs that stuff, right? You remember? So he goes to get it.
He goes subatomic. He grabs what he needs, and then he's waiting for the Wasp and Hank Pym to bring him back out, and nothing happens. And he's stuck there, and he's asking, "Are you guys there?" And then the camera cuts back.
And it's their ashes.
They got Thanos right up the ass.
Did you say Did you say all three of them were out there?
All three of them, yes.
Mom, Dad, baby.
All three of them got Thanos balanced as all things should be.
I was destroyed. How could they do that? The movie was so nice. And then they brought it all back. PTSD.
Yep, they had to remind you, by the way, your next couple Marvel movies are going to be this. And honestly, this kind of signals a bit of a Marvel drought until March. We don't get Captain Marvel until 2019, and from here to then, nothing. We get.
Did you say March?
Yeah.
And then when does New Avengers come out?
April or May.
Oh, okay. How could they drop that?
I know.
How could they drop that cliffhanger?
They dropped that bomb on you, and
how's he gonna get out? Nobody else knows how to get him.
And it gets me to thinking, since Ant-Man was an original Avenger, they've got to find some way to get him out of there for Infinity War Part 2, right?
Maybe he figures out his own way how to get out because he got his own way out in the first movie.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope so.
Through pure luck. But yeah, so
give him more credit.
It was luck. It was literally luck.
I don't remember.
But yeah, so that's what you get there. And we've talked about none of the rest of the movie because we just started at the end.
I had to just say it. Okay, so surprisingly, it's not really that much about Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, that kind of disappointed me. They call it Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it really doesn't do a whole lot to explore the actual relationship between the two, which seems like kind of a wasted opportunity given the exact title of the movie.
Yeah, they have a couple scenes where they do some nice teamwork, but it's pretty much he does a little here, she does a little there. The ghost girl has a bunch of her own scenes. Mm-hmm. Not her own, but showing what she can do. The mom and dad have their part. Everybody's got their whole part in the film. It's not really about Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah,
there was very little actual cohesion between all of the characters a lot of the time. I mean, there was, of course, a fair plenty bit, but heck, I almost felt like Luis had more interaction with every other character than they did with each other.
Yeah, he was like the baseline. He's funny.
It was the glue that kept everyone together.
It was the movie was funny though. Everybody was really funny except Michael Douglas.
Yeah, every humorous line Michael Douglas had just kind of fell flat. Like every time it was like, okay, this is the build-up and here's the joke. Here's Michael Douglas dropping the joke.
But I don't think that was really his fault. He was just saying what his lines were. He just had kind of boring, predictable jokes.
But is that not the difference between a fantastic performance and an okay performance? Just saying your lines and saying your lines great?
I guess, but what he had to say wasn't funny in the first place. But yeah, I know. I know.
Some people can take unfunny scripts and make gold out of it. Michael Douglas did not do that in this movie. That's not to say that his entire performance was bad or anything. You know, he still had I'm a cranky old man, screw you, Paul Rudd, you ruin everything.
Right, he had his serious role. The jokes he had written, though, the jokes he's performed, whatever, just weren't really funny. But everybody else was really funny.
Everybody else being Paul Rudd and Luis. Actually,
no, they were. You know who was funny?
Carl. Kurt. That's his name. Kurt.
Oh my
Russian
gosh,
dude.
He was so funny.
Yes.
If it looks like duck.
It looks like duck.
Then it's truth serum.
Yeah, there were some good gags, some good running gags, some good one-off gags, some good slapstick gags. I will say, I think this movie had a lot more fun with the concept of them being small and things changing size in general than the first movie did. Because the first movie was definitely more focused around, ants. He can do stuff with ants.
Oh, yeah, it was. I forgot. There were a lot of ants.
But then this movie was more like, whoa, look at this thing turn big, and now it's turning small. And then they threw this thing and made it big, and now it's a big thing careening towards the open. Now they're small, and all these regular-sized things look big around them. And they did a lot more playing around with that, with the size difference.
Yeah, with the car and the building and, well, the whole collection of cars.
Mm-hmm. Now, don't think about it too hard, because almost everything about the size changing in this movie directly contradicts Michael Douglas from the first movie. Just don't think about it. Just put it to rest in your mind.
Why? What are you talking about?
Well, in the first movie, Hank Pym, Michael Douglas, says that when something changes size, it retains its mass.
Meaning?
It's the same weight. It has the same force behind it.
Oh, he said that?
Yeah.
We watched that like a year ago.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to remember.
So, obviously, shrinking down a multi-level building into a briefcase-size thing and then picking it up and walking away.
No. I read this in the trivia. The building was actually miniature. Like, it wasn't a huge building that they shrunk. It was a miniature building that they blew up so they could work in it.
Oh, what wonderful lamp shading. How convenient.
I'm just saying. That's how it's got the suitcase thingy on it. It makes sense. I mean, clearly they didn't just shrink a building.
But if it retained the same mass as when it was small, then it would have absolutely no kind of structural integrity when they're walking around in it. Again, this is why I say...
Maybe it was made of steel.
Do not think about it too thoroughly here. There's a lot of stuff that just does not make sense. Accept it. It's a cape movie.
I liked it.
Right. It was fine. It was a perfectly fine movie. Definitely better than Thor 2. Not as good as Infinity War.
But Infinity War is so dragging. It's like the whole thing's depression all the way through.
That's not true. There are some good jokes.
But it's all, like, tense. You're like, what's going to happen next? He's going to get the next ring, and then he does. He's going to get the next ring, and then he does.
Stone.
Okay, Stone. Oh, that's right. He puts him in his... What is he at? He has a ring thing.
The Infinity Gauntlet.
That's his hand thing?
Yes.
How is that a gauntlet? It's like brass knuckles.
Because it's an entire glove. A gauntlet is a metal glove.
Oh.
Gosh.
I thought it was like a brass knuckle thing for the stones.
No, look it up.
What, gauntlet?
Look up the Infinity Gauntlet right now, because you clearly do not remember.
His glove?
No, the Infinity Gauntlet.
I know, but you just said it was his glove.
It's his gauntlet.
Okay. Oh, it's like metal?
Yes, I just got done saying a gauntlet is a metal glove.
Okay, whatever. Brass knuckles, rings, whatever. The stones. You're like, oh, he can't get the next stone. And then he does. And then he does. And then he does. And then he does. And he gets them all. And the world is half ended. And the whole thing is tense. You're stressed through the whole thing. And then this movie was so just fun.
But you know... what other superhero movie is stress the entire time and is also considered one of the best?
What?
The Dark Knight.
Well...
people like their dark, dramatic superhero movies because we don't get a lot of them, honestly. We usually get Thor Ragnarok, which is silly the whole way through.
That's different, though. The Dark Knight's like, you want the Joker to win. You're like, oh, yes.
You're a psychopath.
You're like, yes, show them, burn the money, do it all. This one, you're like, Thor. This one, you're like, Thanos needs to die.
Thanos did nothing wrong.
Shut up.
Thanos was right.
I mean, technically he was, because there are too many people here, but still. I think they could have done, like, some Wall-E type shit or something.
I thought that Thanos was an incredible villain. And I cannot wait to see more of him in Infinity War Part 2.
He's so cocky.
Yeah. You know who else was super cocky?
Who?
Loki. And he got manhandled by the Hulk.
I love Loki.
Rip Loki.
Oh. that movie was bad.
It was great. How could you talk bad about a movie with such great comedic lines like, "Here we are, bunch of assholes standing in a circle"?
I'm just trying to say that movie was pure stress, and this one was delight.
Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp is a movie you can bring your kids to if you didn't think that you could bring your kids to Infinity War.
You can bring your kids to any movie. Don't let him tell you otherwise.
If you're a normie and you don't want your kids,
Bring them.
I can't say anything without you just getting all up on my grill, can I?
No.
Yeah, I
Bring
will
your
say
kids to see the movie and any other movie.
I will say that Ant-Man and the Wasp had a couple really fun throwbacks to some of the early Ant-Man / Avengers comics, such as bringing the character Bill Foster in, played by Lawrence Fishburne. Wasn't expecting that, honestly.
And his son played him. In his flashback scene, that was his son.
Wow.
I read the trivia.
Good for you. And yeah, they made a little nod to the fact that Ant-Man was once known as Goliath, and that honestly had me grinning from ear to ear that they even brought that up. I was like, that is a wonderful...
He was like making audible noise, and I was like, stop it.
It's just one of those fun things, those little details that get you. See, you're the kind of person who watches cape movies and...
Cape?
Yeah, superhero movies.
Oh, okay. And then what?
And... You're the kind of person who watches them for how fun they are, which is why you love Ant-Man more than Infinity War. I love seeing those little nod backs to the source material and seeing all the little Easter eggs that they pack in and everything. And obviously I enjoy it for the fun as well. If you're not watching a movie for the fun, you're watching it for the wrong reasons. And
no, that's not true. There are lots of reasons to watch movies.
You mean
not just because they're fun.
You mean to say that you don't watch Solo for the fun?
What's Solo?
It's a movie about, I believe, the fascist party in, like, Italy and their child slaves that they kept for pleasure.
Okay, that's for, like, learning purposes.
It's definitely not a learning movie.
It's not for fun. What sick jokes are you trying to make here? Anyway, I didn't watch these for the fun of it. I watched them because you said you wanted to watch them all in a row, and last year we did.
Yeah. Do you regret it?
No.
Exactly.
Well, I have to see them. They're so big. I'm not just gonna not see the biggest movie of the year.
Alright, so you excited to watch through all the shitty DC movies?
No.
So we can get caught up to Aquaman?
Does that even relate to anything else?
I don't know.
Isn't that an origin movie?
I don't know.
I don't want to watch the rest.
Too bad. So, yeah, I feel like we've barely talked about Ant-Man at all, and yet, is that so much of a crime? It's really, you know what you're getting into when you're going to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. You're getting
It's a fun, lighthearted Marvel movie for a change after the heartbreaker
for a change.
Infinity War.
Infinity War was for a change. Every other Marvel movie is pretty lighthearted.
Yeah, but there always happens to be something where it's like, oh, don't let this happen, or somehow the world will end.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll weaponize whatever, the suit. That was the last one. That was the first Ant-Man. They were going to weaponize the suit or whatever and take over the world. Oh, you got to stop them. Nothing bad was happening in this.
That's right here. We have to find Mom, who's been stuck in an atom for 30 years.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, you know they're going to find her, of course. And they did. I was just happy.
Maybe they should have just not found her for the plot twist.
No, of course they were going to find her.
Yeah.
And I like sad and depressing movies, okay? But I liked this one.
I liked it too. It was not the greatest Marvel movie.
What is?
I just said Infinity War, probably.
Okay.
Otherwise, Captain America Winter Soldier was very good. Captain America Civil War was very good.
You just like Chris Evans, don't you?
I just like the writing in the Captain America movies.
You just like the boring grandpa captain.
Captain America was the least interesting part about Winter Soldier and Civil War.
No, he's the least interesting part of all the movies. Because he's boring.
Hey.
What?
He commands respect. And he is by the book. And
he's a grandpa.
He's Captain America, damn it.
He's literally old. Why
so
is he?
Hank Pym.
Okay, listen. He's the same age as Bucky. Yet Bucky's so fun and cool, and like everyone's like, I want to be Bucky. And then there's what's his name in the movie?
Fun and cool. Yeah, that's why he was a brainwashed assassin for frickin' 60 years.
He's cool. He's hot. He's badass. Now, what was Captain America's name? What's his name?
Steve Rogers.
Okay, Steve's like the boring grandpa. Even in the first movie when he's like, what is he supposed to be? 18?
Yeah, something like that.
He's boring. He's a grandpa.
Captain America is the blueprint for what every superhero should be. He's just. He's right. He's powerful. He's American made.
He's a grandpa.
So is Hank Pym.
Who?
Michael Douglas. Did you even watch the movie?
I don't do good with names unless they're animals.
Unless they're animals. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
If you invite me to your house and you introduce me to your pets, I'll remember their names. And I'm not remembering anybody else's.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
So yeah, that sums up Ant-Man and the Wasp right there in one sentence. It's been a pleasure talking about these movies, but we are about where we're going to be on time, and quite frankly, we've gone so off track, I don't think we're going to get much more squeezed out of Ant-Man. Any last
I like
words?
Paul Rudd.
Very good. I did want to mention how Ghost's performance, the first time that she said like an actual line when she had them captured and everything, I thought her accent was really, really bizarre. As she kept talking, I realized it was basically just like her standard English accent, but like the first words that she said were just really weirdly delivered.
I don't really remember because I just remember seeing her and thinking she was going to hit on Ant-Man or something.
I mean, possible.
She looked very come hither when she was talking to him. I was like, you keep your hands off?
What? He's technically single.
Not for her.
Not for her.
No, he's with the Wasp.
That was not
What's
an
her name?
officially established
Claire?
thing.
No, that's not right.
It's not Claire.
What's her name?
Something Van Dyne.
See, you don't even remember.
Hope Van Dyne.
Hope.
Yeah, Hope.
He's with Hope.
could've
She was
given me a
sitting
second.
right next to him.
Yeah, tied up to a chair. Not like she was exactly willingly sitting next to him.
They're like the cutest little superhero middle-aged couple.
Excuse me, you obviously mean like Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett Johansson.
Ah, that is so weird. What was even with that storyline?
I still don't know.
Okay, anyway, we're not talking about that. We'll talk about that the next time that comes up in a movie. Avengers 2.
Possibly.
We don't even know what it's going to be called yet.
Technically, this would be like Avengers 4.
I know, but they didn't release what the name is yet, because apparently it spoils the first one.
Oh.
So they're waiting until everybody has for sure seen that, I guess. I don't know, I read it the other day.
The Avengers, perfectly balanced.
Well, what are they going to call it if it spoils the first one?
I have no idea. But,
Make your guess now and we'll find out next year.
okay, it's gonna be called like the Avengers, like Thanos won.
Okay,
Perfect.
we'll see.
Anyway, that's all that we got for you here. Almost a juicy hour. If we would have kept talking about nonsense for 5 more minutes, we could have done it. But boy howdy,
We could have done it.
we gotta just continually disappoint.
Okay, in recap, Don't see Father of the Year.
Don't. Just don't. Avoid it.
Absolutely 100% see Won't You Be My Neighbor.
Yes, for sure.
And if you like Paul Rudd.
Or superhero movies.
Or Paul Rudd, see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Nothing else matters.
Nobody likes Paul Rudd as much as you do.
I doubt that's true. I haven't even seen all his movies.
I have never met a single other person in my life who has had such a liking for Paul Rudd.
I just love him.
Why don't you go marry him?
I can't. He probably already has a family. Never mind, I'm already married to you.
Yeah, never mind me, chopped liver over here.
You're Paul, too.
You're right.
That's why I married you, actually.
I shared a name with Paul Rudd, at least half the name.
And you have somewhat similar features. Kind of.
So what you're saying is I'm like Paul Rudd, but uglier.
Okay.
That's about that. For real this time. We're done. We're out. Back at you next week with another spicy episode of the B Critics, where we talk about 3 more movies. One of them's probably going to be bad. 2 of them are probably going to be aight. Oh,
maybe.
Never mind. We're seeing Skyscraper next week.
Yeah. What else are we seeing?
Oh, yeah. Next week, bring up your schedule.
The one you made fun of?
Yeah.
Is that the one you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
All right. Next week, we are watching Zoe, an Amazon Studios original.
I don't know if it's Zoe or Zoe. Just saying. There's no Y at the end. It's Z-O-E.
We're also seeing Sorry to Bother You and your main event film, Skyscraper. And I have low hopes for that one. But that is your itinerary for next week. Stick around. We'll give you some more thoughts to fill your head with and some more dumb sentences to fill your ear holes with.
A lot more dumb.
A lot more dumb than there is thought. That's true. Catch you all later.
Okay, bye.